So, as you all know, transatlantic relations have been at the cornerstone of global economies. We have deep-rooted relationships between our two continents, strong cultural links triggered by also different migration flows throughout history. I won't go into details. And also very recently, a renewed attention, and in particular from the European EU authorities, to develop trade and cooperation agreement with the USA, with Canada, a bit more recently with the UK as well. So really this shows how much the Atlantic Basin has been at the core of global exchange. Yet there is a paradox here, and this is why this webinar is very timely and pertinent. Atlantic local economies may have felt a little bit outside these global processes, remained a little bit peripheral, and not necessarily harnessing all the fruits of a global economy. And why I'm saying that is that looking at the European Ninth Cohesion Report, the Commission showed, for example, that Atlantic regional economies have, for most of them, been stuck in the so-called development trap. And another example is also the European election, with a certain tendency for extreme right votes that show that globalization for all of us is not necessarily something seen as very positive. This being said, it is true that our local economies also have faced many unprecedented challenges in the recent years. We had financial crises, we had the COVID-19 pandemic impact on our local economies, coupled specifically in the EU Atlantic area with the impact of Brexit that has distended Atlantic cohesion. And in this context, local economies had to be very resilient, very adaptive also to the political and economic context. And our thinking was that with collaboration, we can enhance this resilience and we can, let's say, harness our competitive advantage of being at the gateway of both continents to really harness the fruit and be at the center of new global exchanges. So this webinar comes really at a crucial moment and at a crossroad for Atlantic territories. It's a good time to rethink collaboration at transatlantic level as an opportunity really to be at the core of global exchanges and to move away from a peripheral situation and turn current international frameworks into opportunities for us. Of course, it won't be without challenge because we are talking about different framework of cooperation, a bit more fragmented. That's just about that if it was only about doing cooperation at EU level. So I really thank our distinguished panelists for today's webinar to be there to explain their perspective as experts on policies, on investment, and also on blue economy sectors. That is a really key feature of our Atlantic territories, and share their perspective in that respect. In a few minutes before giving the floor to my colleagues, Wim and Mathilde, who will detail a bit more what we expect to do in this pilot project, I really wanted to insist on the purpose of this webinar. So it's not only about exchanging information on how we see transatlantic cooperation developing, but it's really about building a network of stakeholders to co-develop actionable collaboration. So this is a series, this is one step of creating, we hope so, really a scheme for collaboration at transatlantic level. So we are very ambitious with this pilot project, and we count on you also to think collaboratively, take the floor, discuss, comment, really to take the chance to learn from each other, but also forge a new transatlantic partnership geared towards the economic and social prosperity of our coastal territories. So I really look forward for this productive meeting, and I would like to invite Wim to take the floor and detail a little bit more the activities of our pilot project. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Elise. I will take over from you. And I'm just happy to see that number 50 has arrived in the meeting. So I was waiting for this moment. Before I go into the details of the project, I would like to mention and announce that this webinar will be registered. So in case that you would like to have another view later on or to check some things, this will be possible. This will be made possible on the different websites of the core partners in the project of the Transatlantic Cooperation. My name is Wim Stubbe. I'm working within CPMR as a coordinator for the Transatlantic Project. And indeed, there are several objectives related to this project. The core focus is definitely on climate change and blue economy. And the aim of this project is focusing as well on the green recovery of the maritime sector. Next to that, there will be a strong accent on the internationalization of the SMEs in the blue economy. And of course, policy issues will also be considered as we share many challenges together as described by Elise. What is this project going to deliver? Or what do we have to bring forward on the table for all the partners around the table and for all the partners around the ocean? Today, we have the first webinar. It's the first of the 3 webinars that will be organized. The next webinar will be related to the financial support and the financial tools which can Transatlantic Cooperation. It will be in probably end of September, beginning of October, will relate to the preparation of the mission to the province of Quebec. So next to the webinars, the second key action is 2 missions that will be organized this year to Quebec, and next year we will visit the region of Wales in order to find potential for cooperation and opportunities for cooperation in the blue economy and climate change. Next to that, so we have webinars, we have the missions, we have also 3 capacity building workshops, which will be organized and related to the different stakeholders that we are considering in this process. It's in the first place the governments, it's also the SMEs, the clusters of SMEs, it's the research institutions which are part of the game, and of course not to forget an ocean ports key role to play. We also make a catalog of best practices, and Mathilde will explain more about that. We will also build a roadmap for cooperation, transatlantic cooperation, for the different stakeholders that I've just mentioned, in order to speed up the, let's say, this cooperation to make it more efficient. And we have also an advisory board, a transatlantic advisory board, which is going to help us and to inspire us on the future steps to be taken within the frame of this transaction. And last but not least, it's not the aim to keep everything locked up. It's definitely the aim of the project to come outside with the result of this project and to strengthen the cooperation and to strengthen the different links that we have been able to work out during these 2 years in order to bring them to a higher level. In order to have a better view on what is the situation today, I would like to invite my colleague Mathilde to come into the room and to bring her, let's say, results of her analysis, or the first results of the analysis, to the webinar people. Thank you.
Thank you, Wim, and thank you to all the project partners for organizing this webinar. I think it will be interesting. And as you mentioned, the first step of the project, let's say, was to do a short analysis of the transatlantic decentralized cooperation agreements that exist mainly between CPMR European member regions and Quebec, and also other Atlantic stakeholders, so whether in North America, South America, Africa, etc. So we had looked at everything. And the objective basically was to map and to assess discuss a bit the types of cooperations that exist between Atlantic regional authorities in Europe and stakeholders. So whether they are national or regional authorities, associations, companies, clusters, researchers, etc. So we looked at all types of stakeholders. And then the aim was also to see how the project can benefit from these agreements. What types of topics are emphasized by these agreements, what types of topics should be developed as well, what interest is there, and how regional stakeholders can also benefit from the project. So we really wanted to look at this double vision. And to do this, so I will share my screen very quickly. So let's say that the first step of this work was to map all the agreements that exist. I hope you can see my screen properly. So between March and May 2024, we have interviewed at CPMR all of our member regions. So Northern and Western Regional Assembly in Ireland, Welsh, Quebec, of course, Brittany, Pays de la Loire, Nouvelle-Aquitaine, all the Spanish and Portuguese Atlantic regions, as well as the islands, so Azores and Madeira. And the idea was to understand from them what types of agreements they have. Do they have any agreements, transatlantic ones at first? If they have any, what types of cooperation agreements they have? Are they formal? Are they more technical, etc.? So we really can see that on this map there are many agreements. So of course not all of them are Atlantic related, but most of them are, and it's really interesting to see that there are many agreements on northern part of Americas, as well as in Latin America, South America, and some on the Atlantic coast of Africa. So it's really interesting to have all of these results. And basically this analysis and those interviews, they allowed us to find that there is a really big diversity of cooperation agreements. So there are memorandum of understandings, there are technical agreements. So some regions send technicians in other areas to support. There are university or city twinnings. There are fundings that are given to some stakeholders. There are also some projects that are developed between all the stakeholders. But then what we found also is that there is a degree of centralization that is very different from one state to another, and it really influences the framework of cooperation. For instance, there are some states, of course, or regions where there is much more autonomy. Well, Quebec, Wales, Ireland, and Portugal, and some regions that are much more constrained or that have less autonomy to conclude agreements, such as, for instance, continental Portuguese regions, for which it is a very new process, so maybe cooperation agreements are not yet done. Then, well, as you saw, it's also a very vast geographical area that is covered by all of these agreements. Of course, as we focus on transatlantic for the moment, more in the north of the Atlantic, and it's really interesting that there are many regions in this area that have been covered. So the northeast of the United States, the northeast as well of Canada, Quebec, New Brunswick, etc. So it's really good for us to see that our project is really registered in an already existing cooperation framework, but that it's more each regions, each stakeholder that is working on its own. And for the moment, there hasn't been a big initiative to gather a bit all of this. So we're really glad to be able to gather all of these opportunities. We also saw that there is a big diversity of stakeholders, companies, clusters, researchers, universities, students, citizens, of course, regional and national authorities. So it is also really encouraging, because we know we can involve many types of people in this project, and that it will be able to benefit to many people as well. And finally, and maybe the most important, if I can say, so Elisa and Wim mentioned that the topics of the projects are mainly related to blue economy, port infrastructure, adaptation to climate change. And we saw that there is a strong interest from, well, all the regions that we have interviewed to work on these topics and develop maybe new cooperations or strengthen existing cooperation agreements. So it's also very positive, and that's why we believe it will be very interesting today to share good practices all together. Finally, we wanted to ask to the regions we interviewed what would be the use of the projects for them. And in 3 sentences, what we found is that it would really be a good tool to either strengthen cooperation agreements, already existing ones, or to develop new ones. Also to emphasize the work made already on offshore renewable energies, climate change, blue economy, and really make the Atlantic area more dynamic in this regard. And also, finally, to use local expertise to formalize cooperation agreements, because sometimes we saw that there are some agreements that are very formalized, but at the technical level, it is much more difficult to really put them in place and to actually make concrete exchanges between all the involved stakeholders. So that's the first elements we wanted to share with you from this analysis. Of course, the analysis, the full one, will be available on the website that is currently being developed, and we will share it publicly with all of you as well, so you will be able to have a look at it. But we think it's very important to share those first elements, also to see what type of examples are shared today, and that maybe we can use also to add to the study. So thank you very much and have a good webinar. I think it's time to start the session. Lorena, if you want to
take
the word.
Thank you, Mathilde, Wim, and Elise for your presentation and this overview about the Transatlantic Project. We will start with today's session. This will be very exciting. We have so many interesting speakers. I will give the floor to our moderator, Dr. Ruben Neira, Secretary General of Forum Oceano, Portugal Blue Economy Cluster.
Thank you, Warela, and good afternoon and good morning to all our Atlantic friends and from both sides of the Atlantic, and also starting to give a compliment to CPMR and to Elise Waterloo team by trusting Forum Oceano from the beginning in many of the initiatives that we have been developing, and also having the same, we could say, value structure, the value structure of cooperation for common prosperity between our coastal and oceanic regions. So it's we are in a pivotal moment, and though it seems that some forces are bigger than us, in the end of the day, it's the contribution of all of us working together and showing that we can do something different, that everybody wins. That is the goal also that we have here in this project, is to, of course, to exchange practices, but then putting into practice the practices that we find it most useful. So this is not an end in itself, but we see it as a new starting point for doing something with more with impact. And for starting about and seeing what kind of opportunities we can kick off, we will start by Wales. with Mr. Geraint Green. He's the head of Agile Simro. I think this is the way to pronounce it right. Please take the floor and tell us what you see in the Transatlantic Project can bring, and where can we cooperate and move forward. Please take the floor. 10 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's Geraint. You got that very well, actually, and it's Cymru. So that's Welsh for Wales. Yeah. So I think my picture might flip out, come up at some point, but hopefully you can all hear me anyway. So I'll just read an initial sort of script that just to make sure I cover everything, because I tend to ramble quite a lot. So I should be able to do that within the 10 minutes. But obviously, I'm very happy to contribute during the rest of the conversation as well. So I'll just take you through some points from the Welsh perspective and our experiences. So yeah, Agile Cymru. So sort of some of the background around that. We've really looked to move things forward since events in 2016, which I know you will know what I'm referring to. So, for example, despite the UK government's decision not to participate in the current round of European territorial cooperation programmes, which are obviously relevant to this agenda today, Welsh Government are working hard to re-establish platforms for cooperation with our friends and colleagues across the EU and globally. So today is an excellent example of that. We're delivering our Agile Cymru programme, which is, hopefully you can tell by the name, it's really about Wales looking outward, being flexible, showing that agility to really make things happen. So again, I think that feels very aligned with today's agenda. So we're really looking outward to existing and future international, European and UK partners to address shared challenges and maximise shared opportunities. So again, very aligned with today. Agile Cymru supports the seeding or facilitating of activity that builds cross-border and international partnerships and increases cooperation in areas that have potential to lead to greater, more sustained economic activity of significance to Wales. So again, we recognise this about working shared, but obviously with public money, we have to have that benefit to Wales, but I think we all understand that balance. It also recognises the importance of cultural collaboration and the social benefits of working across borders. Agile Cymru is scalable, and for now its seed funding is supporting Welsh businesses and organisations to take forward economic cooperation in the Irish Sea region, with other European regions and internationally. It also continues our support for Welsh participation in the EU's Horizon Europe programme, something we've done for ever since FP7 essentially. Agile Cymru is also enabling some continuity for important Welsh-Irish networks and relationships formed through the Isle and Wales European Territorial Cooperation Programme. This includes taking forward our Irish Sea framework with stakeholders from Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland and other relevant regions. For example, through collaborative projects under the Peace Plus programme, which is an Interreg programme, as you I'm sure know, and Horizon Europe. This multilateral approach to a shared geographical area will obviously be of interest. And it's also worth noting that one of the 3 priority areas for the Irish Sea framework is sustainable blue growth. Celtic and Atlantic regions is also one of our focus areas for Agile Cymru, including building on the Welsh Government's MOUs, those agreements that was just referred to. And we have those with Brittany and the Basque Country, for example, but also Quebec. Also the legacy of our involvement in previous Atlantic area ETC programs. And I know a colleague from Brittany is on, so she knows all about this. We are likely to launch a mechanism soon to support joint projects with Brittany shortly. And also we're doing some work multilaterally around the opportunities around shared Celtic heritage and culture. Welsh Government and the Government of Quebec have also held 5 joint funding calls supporting the agreement, the MOU we have with them, to support organisations in Wales and Quebec to develop collaborations and partnerships in the areas of economy, science and innovation, and arts and culture. For example, there's been research collaboration established in areas such as life sciences, AI, advanced manufacturing, and hydrogen storage. As has already been touched on, there does seem to be an opportunity to join up separate initiatives. So, for example, for Wales, you have, as I've already mentioned, Brittany, Quebec, the Irish Sea, and putting that in a wider framework in the short to medium term. It may be easier to do that by starting with an informal and pragmatic approach. That certainly worked for us in the Irish Sea space. Also, given our decades of cooperation and progress on areas such as the Irish Sea framework, we also feel it would be useful to explore common ground on the proposals for the post-27 European territorial cooperation programmes. We understand the European Commission has already asked all current programmes to organise consultations with stakeholders by the end of 2024, and it does seem that lessons learned from all of those years of cooperation should be part of that. And finally, a mini plug, we'll be running an Irish Sea workshop on 16th of July. And that brings together what we call our Coalition of the Willing, very much like today's event, people who want to work together on cooperation. And we'll be sharing information and opportunities as part of that session. And if you get in touch, I'd be very happy to forward you an invite if you want to hear a bit more about the Irish Sea framework. And again, that's an online event, probably only an hour and a half as well. So it may be a useful part of your time. So I'll stop there. Apologies, it's just my face, but as I say, I'm very happy to answer questions and contribute to the conversation. But I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Geraint, from Cambridge. So I think now I got it right.
Very good.
Very well. Thank you. Very much for your contribution, and as you see, from a reality where that has been in a very deep transformation in the last years, and that will also now enter probably in a new phase that could entail new opportunities for changing around. And as Elise has said, jointly we can be able to escape the development trap that we are in. So now we move to Portugal, and we will have the perspective of Gonçalo Faria. So from the project Abazul is the lead manager of the Abazul Portugal, a project that is coordinated by Fórum Oceano, but in a transatlantic perspective, and then you will see why. Gonçalo, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ruben. And thank you for the invite to participate in this webinar. It's a pleasure to share what we are doing at Abazul and how we can leverage the project and the infrastructure that we have for transatlantic cooperation. And I believe we are already doing the first steps on that, and I can briefly discuss that at the end of my presentation. But more than that, I would say it's a very relevant project for jump-starting or giving a boost to innovation in blue economy in Portugal and in the Atlantic space. So very, very briefly, let me, if I can share my screen. Let me try to, I hope you can see my screen now, just to inform a little bit about what I'm going to talk about. So the Abazul network, it's a European funded project from EU Next Gen. It is a total of 100 million euros with the goal to set up 7 innovation hubs. All of them located in mainland Portugal, in the coast, in ports, and all of them focused on innovation full economy. So you have the map of Portugal on your screen. So two of those hubs are in the north of Portugal, in Leixões, in the port next to the city of Porto. Then one in Aveiro, one in Peniche, two in the region of Lisbon, one in Lisboa and one in Oeiras, run by IPMA, the Portuguese meteorological agency, and one in the south in Olhão. On top of that, we have a Hub Azul school, which is a collaboration between our nautical school and a technical school for maritime professions, with the aim of developing the curriculums for the new skills and new professions for emerging activities in blue economy. This is a project that is right now ongoing. All of these infrastructures are currently in the stage of being built. The project is supposed to end in a year and a half at the end of next year, 2025. And all of these hubs have different configurations, and they have different focuses in terms of areas of the blue economy. Just to give a couple of examples, in the north of Portugal, the first one, Leixões 1, you have a very large ocean basin to test offshore technology such as floating offshore winds platforms or offshore aquaculture cages. It's a very deep ocean basin that in the center well has a depth of 60 meters. So very, very specific infrastructure to test. I would say the last test onshore of ocean technologies before you have the first tests in the ocean. Then, for example, in Peniche, you have a startup hub that is focused on blue biotech, aquaculture, RAS aquaculture specifically, and digitalization technologies for the fishing and food processing sector, and a little bit nautical tourism as well. In Lisbon, you have a 7,000 square meter hub for startups as well, with shared blue biotech labs, shared offices, a robotics lab, a prototyping lab. So all of the basic facilities to support development of blue startups. And in the south, it's a hub focused on aquaculture of bivalves and mollusks, which is the economic profile of the region. And obviously, the hub from IPMA, the Portuguese Meteorological Association agency, it's focused on the relationship between ocean and climate, and includes meteorological radars, an oceanographic ship, a supercomputer, and a small tank for the initial testing of submarine robotics. So all of this is very interesting, but if you don't reach out to the market, if you don't start doing cooperation agreements, if you don't start engaging with the local and the global ecosystem, this is just infrastructure that's going to sit there. So that's our job at Fórum Oceano. Our job here is to make this project work as a network and not just as individual infrastructures, and to create those connections with the Portuguese and the global ecosystem. So with that, let me share with you one of the first things that we did in the project, which was a digital platform for the blue economy ecosystem. It's a Hub Azul deal room. It was done in collaboration with a Dutch company, Dealroom, and in collaboration with a few other stakeholders, relevant stakeholders in the blue economy space. So Catapult Ocean, Caixa Geral de Depósitos, Portuguese Bank, Startup Portugal, Euronext, Blue Invest, the mechanism from initiative from the European Commission for investment in the blue economy, and the Port of Lisbon as well. And as a knowledge partner, we're very honored to have the World Ocean Initiative from The Economist that does give us a lot of credibility, and we're very honored for that. And this, I would say, is a very, very interesting mechanism for transatlantic cooperation. In this tool, in this platform, that it's public use, it's free to use. You can find the whole blue economy ecosystem, from startups, investors, ports, universities, research and development centers, etc., that are focused on the blue economy space. And we have divided that in sea basins. And for example, for the Atlantic Sea Basin, you can find here on the menu on the left, you can see if there's loads, you can see all of the different companies that are part of the ecosystem of this ocean basin. And we have at the moment mapped 530 companies in this ecosystem. If you want to look, for example, at specific countries, you can come here to Blue Companies and look at startups and scale-ups. Right now, we have 1,600 startups and scale-ups mapped in total, but you can, for example, look at the Canadian ecosystem. And at the moment, we have 72 startups and scale-ups mapped. I would say there is probably much more than these, but we are working with our partners, and namely with Novarium and Ocean Supercluster and other partners in Canada, and obviously in other geographies, to continue this mapping and refine this mapping and have a much better idea of the different ecosystems of each region and each country. But this is a very interesting tool to start creating these connections with different ecosystems. Just a final note, and I've talked about this. We have created a very close relationship with Novarium and Ocean Supercluster in Canada. We have MOUs with them, and we have started some, I would say, soft initiatives with them. I would say mostly soft landing of startups, Canadian startups in Portugal. And we believe that this is a very, very relevant partnership for us, and that can be very, very relevant for both ecosystems, both for the Portuguese ecosystem, the established companies that can receive innovation from Canadian startups, and for the Portuguese startups that can easily access the Canadian market, a much bigger, much larger ecosystem that can help these startups to grow. So I think these are the initial ideas that I can give you on what we're doing at Hub Azul and how we can use this for cooperation. And I hope at the end we have some time for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you, Gonçalo, and for your presentation. As we can see, the digital transformation is effectively not only a force that can, put some negative forces into action, of course, in transforming industries, and also, and it's a fact, eroding employment, but also it gives new opportunities to connect and new opportunities to know the reality of each region, and also in doing other forms of cooperation or enhancing other forms of cooperation. So to say that this tool, the Hub Azul room, is something that is readily available for the Transatlantic Project and the Transatlantic partners in order to take advantage and see how we can move investment forward between our regions by using this tool. So now we move from from Portugal to the other side of the Atlantic, to Quebec in Canada, with Amélie Desrochers, which she is the executive director of Novarium, the blue cluster from Quebec, and also a very dear and close partner of Foros and Hub Azul. Amélie, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the invite. Ruben or Gonzalo, I think I sent you my presentation. I'd be grateful if you could share it because I'm on my phone at the moment.
I think I received here something in the Google Slides.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I can start by saying that in Canada, we're very blessed to have a supercluster fully dedicated to the blue economy. So we're working in collaboration with Canada Ocean Supercluster for the past 3 years, and Quebec is a maritime nation, but we don't always recognize it. So basically, Novarium is based in Rimouski. It's a 50,000 population, 6 hours north of Montreal. It is somewhat a small city with a huge concentration of experts. We have around 1,000 researchers coming from all over the world who are based around the Rimouski and the Gaspé Peninsula in eastern Quebec. It's a beautiful region that I highly recommend you to visit at some point. But the idea around Novarium was really to build a physical space where all of the researchers and the university students could actually gather and start creating more synergies around the blue economy. It's been they've been working under the radar for the past 2 decades. It's very dynamic research community that is well known internationally for the quality of its research. But when it comes to commercialization and economic development, we were definitely lagging behind. And one thing I realized coming from a different startup ecosystem in Toronto, Montreal, San Francisco, I realized that there wasn't this startup mindset and this startup community around the blue economy in Quebec. So that was the main mission for Novarium. So we have a physical building in the city center of Rimouski. That's our mothership, as I like to call it, and it's surrounded by a huge university campus, mostly dedicated to research science, ocean research science. But we have also 7 different applied research centers in marine biotechnology, marine engineering, aquaculture, and sustainable fishing. So the idea was really to bring all of these stakeholders together and start building a commercial vision around it. So the Canadian Ocean Supercluster is really policy oriented, and I would say that Novarium is first and foremost an economic development project that will benefit the whole economy of Quebec. I don't know if you have heard about Quebec's ambitious project of innovation zone. So for the past 3 years, I've been working with my CEO Martin to put in place a strategy that we call La Zone Bleue, or the Blue Zone. It was a call for proposal from Quebec government. They received 42 proposals from different regions of Quebec to basically build what they call innovation zones in different key sectors. So far they have announced one zone in quantum computing with IBM supercomputer and a whole bunch of stakeholders that are dedicated to quantum computing. There's another zone dedicated to the microchip building, so bringing back a lot of the production that was being done in Asia with North American partners. And the third one that was announced was around EV batteries. So there's a huge concentration of EV battery production and energy transition related projects that are going to be developed in that innovation zone. And the last one that was announced a few weeks ago was around aerospace. Montreal has a concentration of aerospace stakeholders with Bombardier and Boeing and Airbus and other major producers. So they've announced this big investment in the aerospace sector. So next in line, we're working really closely with the Quebec government to build an innovation zone that is based around developing the blue economy sector. So as you can see, we have the St. Lawrence River. Since you know very well that the blue economy is very different in terms of locations, we cannot expect all of our industrial stakeholders to be concentrated in the same cities. We cannot ask the Port of Montreal, Port of Quebec, or a shipbuilding yard to move in the same city. So the idea is really to build an innovation zone that is along the St. Lawrence Seaway, and that leverages all of the industrial forces of the maritime sector in Quebec. So the role of Novarium is really to bridge the gap between the industry and the startup community. So in Montreal and in Toronto, we're ranking quite well when it comes to a startup ecosystem. We have a huge concentration in talent in engineering and in AI. We have one of the best AI research facility in the world with the Mila, located in Montreal. So we built everything virtually, all of the programming virtually, and we leveraged the startup ecosystem around clean tech that was already really dynamic and resilient in Quebec. And we built a series of programming from the lab all the way to commercialization and scaling up and into industrial integration to make sure that we have a very vibrant pipeline of projects that goes all the way to commercialization. So I won't go much very deep in the programs. You can go online on our website, novarium.co, and you will discover our acceleration programs flow. So on one part, we have acceleration programs that are supporting our startups. And on the other side, we're also working a lot with our commercial partners, such as the ports and the shipbuilding yards and the shipping companies that are based in Montreal, Quebec, all over the province, but also in the rest of Canada and even internationally. And we're helping them to accelerate the pace of their innovation process. We're teaching them how to learn, how to work with startups. And at the end of the day, it's nice to have demo days, and we can do a lot of innovation theater around new technologies. But for us, the end goal is really to get to industrial commercialization and making sure that our startups will have real market traction, that they will deploy and scale real projects with our industrial partners. Quickly, I can show the two major themes that we've focused on. Obviously, the blue economy is really large, and we're looking closely at what's happening on the offshore wind sector or sustainable tourism, and we have a few stakeholders who are helping us doing that strategic planning around this. But mostly what we're focusing on, the strength of our ecosystem is around marine engineering, which includes AI technology. We have an underwater acoustic station where we can do all sorts of seabed testing. And on the other side, we want to leverage the ecosystem that's based in the Gaspé Peninsula, that's around sustainable fishing, food transformation, and aquaculture. We will have very modern land-based aquaculture facilities where startups will be able to test and deploy new technologies. So basically, that's the high-level presentation of what is emerging with the Blue Zone. We're working quite closely with different ministries with Quebec government. And they've been really supportive and helpful in deploying this vision, but we're only at the beginning. And we've learned a lot from Oceano and from the Blue Economy strategy that is being deployed in Barcelona. We are a bit behind when it comes to deploying, and it's been really, really helpful to see what's going on in the EU, what type of policies are being developed around the blue economy. So we're using all of this as a business case to to make sure that we have the right vision for Quebec. And obviously, at this point, there are more VCs and more private capital in the EU than in North America. We're working closely with some clean tech VCs and big investment groups in North America to sell them on the blue economy vision and show them the ROI. But clearly for us, we wouldn't have been able to start deploying this vision without being closely related to our European counterparts. So thank you so much for your time. I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you, Amélie, for this very thorough, presentation. And when also we see that, today, innovation and the blue economy innovation in this case can, sprout and flourish in non-traditional areas that we perception as innovation. I would say innovation flagship areas. So in fact, in these areas are the ones that also enclose new opportunities, because there are no incumbents, and there are much more space to do new I would say new initiatives. And in this case, as you can see, the Quebecian ecosystem is very active, doing things in a very integrated way, and it's very important for this Transatlantic Project to see this reality, and again how this dynamics can make of the transatlantic area also you could say a lake of blue innovation that brings jobs and employment and new development dynamics. Now we thank you, Amélie. So now we move again to Portugal, to the Port of Lisbon, with Tiago Fernandes. He is the Director of Innovation, and he is going to share the latest news is how an urban port, and also very with a very I would say strong historical presence, as now beginning to embrace or is embracing the blue economy and other innovation paradigms. Please take the floor.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you for the invitation, for being here with us, with you, sharing our knowledge and our practice about the blue economy. Well, as you know, Lisbon is a very historic city with a lot of tourism, and we have Port of Lisbon. We used to say that the Port of Lisbon is a unique Atlantic ecosystem. And why we say that? Mostly because it's a multifunctional port. We have 14 cargo terminals where we move all types of cargo. We have 2 cruise terminals, 9 passengers terminals, 5 leisure docks, 3 shipyards, and even a military base from our Navy. In terms of jurisdiction area, it's a huge, it's the biggest port area in the Iberian Peninsula. We have 11 municipalities along the estuary with 32,000 hectares, with 204 kilometers of riverfront. It's a huge area to manage. For instance, with that area, only 7% of the space is for port operations. With that, we face some challenge. So with that figure, we have some strategic priorities, mostly environment, of course. We must improve our energy efficiency and decrease emissions in our operations, in our terminals. We also, in terms of economy, we want to maximize our hinterland with better operation standards in their terminals. and in territory. The old port business needs good access and improve the rail and the road and the river access to our terminals. It's the challenge. And of course, we want to do that in an innovation way. We start this year a program of innovation with the partnership of Fórum Oceano, Taxinov. It was a big challenge for us because we don't know anything about innovations. So we are starting the way. It's not been easy because our team, we have a lot of roles, and it's not easy to put the machine ongoing, but we are getting there. This year we also launched the first vector of this program, directed by the nautical segment. We have for challenge the waste management and pollution, the safety and security management, the communication for nautical tourism, and the simplified bureaucracy. And in terms of projects of innovation and in terms of collaboration and protocols with other countries and other ports from the other part of Atlantic, we are beginning to do some things. We have already a protocol with Port of Santos in Brazil, but I think it's not easy to put these things ongoing because the distance is a problem, the funding is also a problem, but we are starting to manage things. We are starting to talk with them, and the companies that are with us in this innovation role are one or two of them are talking also with some Brazilian ports, and we think that the future will be bright for these companies. Just let me say two examples of our projects linked to innovations that we are developing right now. We are with a Portuguese startup, Windcredible, for a urban wind turbine that we can put it in all our port area. The added value of this project is that we are able to extract energy from a renewable source in equipment that is not aggressive in visual terms. And with that, in the historic city like Lisbon, this is perfect for us. We are also working with Wavecom. It's a company from Aveiro in the center of Portugal, in a solution that we can monitorize the consumption of the boats anchored in our marinas. And with that, we want to achieve a reduce in the waste of water and then in the waste of the electricity. And I think these projects can easily be placed in other ports from the other side of the Atlantic, because the challenges are mostly the same in the ports of Europe and in the ports of Quebec, in the ports of the South America. And I think the way is that, and it will be a bright future in terms of cooperation with companies and its ports. And I think I'm on the time, Ruben. So keep on going.
Okay, very well. Thank you, Tiago, for your very pragmatic approach. And saying that this is what we need. Also, it's to talk about, as we said, what practices we can put in practice. So it's really on that goal. So many of the times we have a concept of innovation, of being very disruptive or changing everything. And at the end of the day, you can also do innovation in an incremental way, and also with that, paving the way to create a change culture, so that, and also open to change, to innovation, to bigger changes in the future. So many thanks for your your contribution. And now we move to Spain, our neighbor, and to Mrs. Eva Mena Medina, who is the Director General of CEMAR, so the Campus de Mar. Please, Eva, take the floor.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce my institution in order to have a general idea what we do and what we are. The International Campus of Excellence in Marine Science is a big aggregation, a scientific aggregation composed by 8 universities, 5 from the south of Spain, 1 in the north of Morocco, and the University of Algarve in Portugal, and lately is joining us the University of Magdalena in Colombia. Also, we have 7 research organisms at national and regional level, and 5 private companies also at national and regional level. So this is the context, and our main mission is the knowledge transfer we represent to the academia and researchers. And as I said, our main mission is the knowledge transfer, not only to the industry, with a special focus on the blue economy sectors, but also the society. In this sense, I would like to show some example of best practice that, in my opinion, I think that could be useful for the apply or to take our experience for the another parts of Atlantic. I can see for my colleagues that are speaking before me that is that there are a very useful and good example of a work of excellence and innovation. In that sense, I would like to put the emphasis that in Spain we are organizing an international event at the end of this year that is called Innovazul. I would like to invite you to share your experience and your researchers in this event that I later on I put all the information in the chat. Well, as Portugal of Blue Hub from CEMAR, we are developing the scientific director project in marine science, coordinating 49 projects divided into 3 main lines from the aquaculture, sustainable aquaculture, blue economy sectors, and biodiversity and monitoring of the marine ecosystem. These projects are in the frame of the Spain Recovery and Resilience Plan, like have in Portugal. This is called Thinking Azul. Well, with the main objective of this plan is share the innovation ecosystem in marine science in order to indicate to the national and the regional governments, because this plan is developed at national level, about what is the start point of the start point of these sectors, and could be the strategy, the policies, and the initiative to develop more innovation in these sectors. So with this project, we have an innovation ecosystem in marine science, very useful for other countries to replicate it in other countries. Another good practice that we develop in CPMR is our collaboration with the regional government of Andalusia to create an climate change observatory in order to not only gather the data, because the regional government have a lot of data, but the interpretation of this data and potential solutions to common problems like the Rugolopteris algae, for example. No? Another good example is the Blue Economy Sustainable Strategy developed by the regional government of Andalusia that CPMR put all the knowledge and experience of the researchers in order to develop a strategy, a specific strategy on blue economy for the next frame of the government. I would like to put emphasis that in the development of the European projects related to the blue economy sector, like Emporia for Kitty, that was it was a project which the main mission was the capacity to the young researchers of blue economy sectors in knowledge transfer, because we detected that in many times the researchers is not directly connected with the industrial necessities. So in that sense, we put together the knowledge and facilitate the mutual knowledge between researchers and industry needs in order to apply the innovative solution in this sector or companies. This project developed a knowledge transfer program to train the young researchers, PhD students, created blue economy dashboard in order to get a global idea about the blue economy in the Europe. So these are tools that could be useful for our project and for our partners. And of course, lately we have the Erasmus program, not only for students, but also to develop a strategic cooperation between different partners to develop joint projects, not only at European level, but the international dimension too. So this is a short description that what we do in CPMR in collaboration with all our institutions and with the participation of all our researchers. In fact, in this webinar is attending a research from the University of Almería that will be part for the advisory board in our project. So this is my presentation and my description about our best practices or our developed projects.
Thank you, Eva. So as you can see, another excellent example of a thriving blue economy ecosystem that also is open for doing business in the global economy. And already we can see by this kickoff webinar a lot of potential of cooperation between the present partners to deepen and to multiply the value that we are all are all creating. And now, last but not least, we have Philippe Thieffry from the Innovation, which he leads. Please, Philippe, take the floor.
Thank you, Ruben. Thank you, everyone. So very pleased to be with you today and to share some reflection about marine renewable energy topics on which we can work and collaborate tomorrow in the scope of this transatlantic project. So I will try just to share one map. So this is a map of the marine renewable energy topics in Brittany, if you can see that. So in Brittany, we are one of the few regions in Europe to be involved in many different kinds of technologies in marine renewable energy. So we have you can find the same different activities in other regions, in Wales, in Scotland also. And for that, I think that we have many similarities with Canada and with some states in the US. So I'm thinking about Washington State, for example, and Maine. So when I'm talking about many different technology, I'm talking about wave energy, tidal energy, and offshore wind energy. The other thing is that we are also involved from the early beginning of the project, so innovation, research and development. So the headquarters of the National Institute in France in Marine Renewable Energy, which is France Énergie Marine, is based in Brest. After research and development, we have test sites in Brittany to help to support companies to prove their technologies. So test sites for small-scale devices, but also for full-scale devices. We have pilot projects. One pilot project for an island, for example, in the Western Island, to demonstrate what can be done in terms of energetic mix for overseas or off-grid islands. And at the end, we have commercial projects. So just to precise that 1 month ago, so the French government awarded the very first commercial project in floating wind in Europe, and it is in the south of Brittany. So we are very, very proud for that. And we also have a dedicated port, and in particular the port of Brest, but we'll come back to that. And to have also a short overview of our supply chain. So we have around 200 of companies, but the particularity that companies involved in marine renewable energy in Brittany are mainly SMEs. So do we have any example of a transatlantic collaboration? Not so much for the moment, but we hope to have much more with this transatlantic project. We hope so. But we can have some practices to share already, particularly for the ocean energy. So this is wave and tidal. This is quite still new technologies. Wave and tidal market does not really exist yet in Europe. I mean that European countries do not have yet a very strong commercial target for these technologies. And this is also technologies that still need to be supported to demonstrate that it is reliable and that it is competitive. So these technologies still need support from the regions, from the European Commission, and still needs collaborative projects inside and outside Europe. That may be the most recent example that I have. is that at the moment we are preparing a Europe collaborative project, so Interreg project for the tidal energy. And in this project, you can find a US company that has some subsidiaries in Canada and in Ireland. This is one thing. The other thing is I was thinking about the test site that we have in Brittany. The test site is also a good tool to for US and Canadian companies to enter in the European market and to begin new relationships in the European ecosystems. So we also have some discussions with the US and Canadian companies in tidal and wave that are quite interesting to develop some demonstration in European seas and some pilot projects. But as you know, and as I said, for such collaborative projects with the Canadian companies, for example, it's much easier when these companies has subsidiaries in Europe. Much easier to have a relationship with them, and much more easier for that to access to European funding. For offshore wind, so the question, the matter in offshore wind is much more about business collaboration and industrial collaboration. This is technology which is quite mature. We have we have an ambitious market in Europe for that. And the next challenge that we have in Brittany and also in the US is about floating wind. Floating wind is the next generation of offshore wind that will need a new kind of supply chain and that will need a new kind of port infrastructures. The port will really be the bottleneck for this new floating wind market. In Brest, the port of Brest has developed specific infrastructures to welcome activities for floating wind construction. And we are involved in some workshop with other European ports to discuss, to share experiences, and to share good practices about what is the need of the industrial companies tomorrow for this floating wind project. So as Gerrit mentioned, with the collaboration that we have with the Wales, this is one example of action in our Welsh partnership. So just sharing experience between Welsh ports and ports in Brittany. And I think that is something that we can also think about exchanging experiences from European port and a port in Canada about these industrial matters. And about to end on this, about business collaboration, we have today some challenges, some barriers for European companies to access to the American market. You know, there are many protective regulations in US, notably. We have the Inflation Reduction Act, for example, which is a good news for the energy transition, but maybe a bad news for the European companies to access the market. We have other example of regulation like the Jones Act that forbid any European ship to work in the US waters. And tomorrow, with the NZIA in Europe, the Net Zero Industry Act, we also will have our own protectionist regulation. So maybe the best way for companies in Canada and in Europe to access to the cross market would be to think about partnerships. And in Brittany, we really believe in partnerships between SMEs from America, Europe, other region in Europe, to have strong competitors to address this global market tomorrow. So for that, to conclude on that, you know that the energy market and the marine renewable energy market rely on political ambition, and to be able to do all that we want to do, we need ambition, but we also need political, I would say, stability, and for long term. And we really hope to have this stability in America and in Europe and in France in the next election that we will have. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip, for your also your presentation. And again, we see a lot of capacity already on the ground and on the ocean, you could say. And then here with a focus more developed in the ocean renewables, especially the offshore wind. But as we can see in the plethora of regions that we have here, we have a lot of complementarity because we have a big, I would say, a deep specialization in the ocean renewables in Bretagne, a big, I would say, dynamics and a strong dynamics in AI in Quebec, and then we see the more multi-sectorial perspective in Portugal, Spain, and Wales. So in different levels, of maturity. So there is effectively a lot of potential for connecting the dots and making partnerships more effective in order to bring more investable projects, because blue economy projects, as any project in the economy, needs to have profitability and scalability, but also in the days that we live and beyond the election cycles, it has to be effectively sustainable in terms not only financially but also in terms of its environmental performance that it will have in its life cycle. So I think it was a very good kickoff webinar. I think we have some time for some Q&A if there is the possibility to do it. So, and now it is the time to do it. So the floor is open. Okay, we have one question from Gonçalo Santos. Please go ahead.
So good afternoon, everybody. The question is for our Welsh representative. He spoke and very well about the Brexit, which is, in my opinion, a huge gap, or introduced a huge gap between the relations between European Union and United Kingdom. And my question is simple: how can we avoid that gap? Maybe going through a less formal relation. As we speak yesterday, I have some privileged information because we had a meeting yesterday. But how can we avoid that gap? How can we work in order to include again Wales, Scotland, or even England in our European projects?
The B word. No, I mean, absolutely. Agile Cymru is very much. It was born out of that informal, pragmatic approach to keeping the relationships going. That's exactly what we're about, and I think we've always recognised that there is we've had 30+ years of close cooperation with Ireland across the Irish Sea, for example, And if you look at the map, there's an obvious gap, isn't there? I mean, we sometimes get grayed out on the map, but we are through Agile Cymru, and the aim of Agile Cymru is it has a very small amounts of funding to seed activity, to start the conversations as we've talked about today. But there is lots of money out there, as other speakers have spoken about, and simply aligning our shared objectives can lever in for us. We have very challenging financial circumstances, but it can lever in activity, knowledge, expertise, very efficiently to our policy priorities. So that means we are very willing to be proactive in that gap. We're not sitting back and worrying about the politics. We're being very pragmatic, and just as we're reaching out in the Irish Sea region, which was very much about joining Ireland and the UK, but also reaching further to both west and east on the map. But again, it's about us coming together, finding that common ground, aligning small amounts of resources or large amounts of resources as we've got to that urge, not through a top-down framework, but just through a very pragmatic approach. So we're very much open for business for that. And of course, yes, we think then that can then influence pathways in the future, in the medium term and the long term. But I think you can do a lot in the short to medium term through relatively informal frameworks, or as has been suggested, joining up the formal frameworks in a more pragmatic and effective way. I think there's a lot to be done, and we're already trying our best in Wales to do that with Agile Cymru.
Very well, thank you. So now we have, let me see if I do not make any mistake in the order. Now, Ivo Molin, please take the floor.
Hey, good afternoon, and thank you for organizing this webinar. I have a quick question for Mr. Philippe Thierry. Just out of curiosity, the Port of Brest, is it capable or being built to be capable for the full industry scale of the offshore wind power? Like, is it prepared for everything, for fabrication, marshalling, and O&M operations?
So the Port of Brest has already some capabilities to welcome construction activities for floating steel devices or floating concrete devices. And these capabilities will be upgraded with some national funding in the next year. But the Port of Brest will be specialized in the assembly of the floating devices, and the OEM will be on the other ports. So for South of Brittany, we will have some capabilities in the Port of Lorient for the OEM, for example.
Okay. All right. So just a quick one before I leave the floor. Out of curiosity, what's the size of the medium size of the turbines that are being expected for those projects in the coast of Britain? Is it between 15 and 17 megawatts?
Yes, that's correct. Up to 20.
Up to 20. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, very well. So we move now to Elise.
Thank you, Ruben. I had a question to address to to Thiago and also to Amélie. Actually, it would be a joint question. As you know, in the EU, we have a new legislative context with the FuelEU Maritime and AFIR legislation that give targets for the decarbonization of maritime transport. And when I'm thinking about transatlantic cooperation, what first comes to my mind is, of course, the natural maritime transport connection link that we have. And my question is the Port of Lisbon looking at collaboration in this domain? And to Amélie, the same question, but for the Quebec area.
I can start. Well, obviously, that's why we signed an MOU with Parmosiano and with the Port of Barcelona in the first place. We have a few startups and more startups actually who are working in that field, addressing all types of biofuels production or AI optimization, actually there's a much more appetite in Europe because of those regulations that are in place. So we know that in most cases the first client of our startups are going to be ports or shipping lines that are based in Europe, and we're getting this traction. It's also a really good business case for us to start working with our shipping companies. We work a lot with the CSL, Canadian Steamship Line. They do have an aggressive target for biofuel usage, even though the regulations are not in place. Compared to some other American counterparts, we can say that they are much more advanced, but they are feeling the pressure because of the EU regulation, and we keep applying this pressure. We know that at some point the regulations are going to come from Canadian government and hopefully North American government as well. So all that to say that it's coming, and in terms of commercialization, we're looking at EU partners. And maybe I can also mention that we're building in collaboration with Parmosiano and the Port of Barcelona and the Port of Lisbon an open innovation platform that will address some needs around the so-called green corridors, and also deploying AI capabilities in ports. So we're at the very beginning of the process, and we're still doing the needs assessment for this project. But the idea is really to pool the stakeholders together, North American ports with European ports, to kind of bring everybody up to level and source mature solutions together.
Very well.
Yeah, it's just like Emily said. We have a tool that responds to that. We are starting to build a tool that will respond to that. From our side, from our side, Port of Lisbon, we are totally open for that collaboration, and of course we want to achieve the standards that European Union put for the future, and all the help that we can get. It's our desire to go on with this project. And Oceanage, like Emily said, it will be a very nice tool to improve that relation and that collaboration.
Many thanks to both of you.
Very well. So as you can see, there's it's moving. So Wim Stubbe, please.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. I have one just little remark to the question on Brest. I can tell you that the port of Brest has been equipped for handling offshore equipment, both onshore and offshore. So they have been working on the terminal, so they're quite ready in order to handle the pieces. This I can assure. They're really now upgrading and upscaling their facilities, but they do already today the handling of pylons and let's say the nacelles and the blades are coming in by ship. I have one question for Eva. In the presentation of the network of universities, Blue Economy is a core package of work. Do you have set up also contact with ports in your region? Andalusia has many interesting ports and very well driven ports. So what is your relation as CPMR with the port business? Thank you.
We have a good relationship with all the and the public agencies, government of port, that well, they are more focused on the nautical and sport ports, but of course with the industry port of Algeciras, of Cadiz, and of course of the city of Andalusia. We have a good relationship, and it's possible the participation in this project. In fact, in last year we have from CPMR we have organized a event with the seven presidents of port authorities of Andalusia, and a research roundtable with the public university of Andalusia, that could be a good opportunity to exchange knowledge and practices, because the ports they are involved in a national plan to integrate the city in the port and vice versa. So it's very interesting to the participation of course. We can contact them. And at national level too. Not only regional.
Okay, so excellent. I think we reached our time in the webinar. I pass, the word to Elise, for the closing of our event. So thank you to you all, and now let's do it.
Thank you very much, Ruben. Really appreciate the exchange that we had for this first webinar of a series of other webinars. We had very interesting speakers, experts in their domain, and it was a very first good round of discussion that gave us a lot of idea for the next steps. I think perhaps I would invite my colleague Wim to give a little bit of hint about the next activity, so that people that have been connected online know a little bit where we are going. Wim Stuber is our project manager, so will be, let's say, your contact point if you want to keep being in the loop of the different activities and also benefit from the different contact and the database of stakeholders we will gather throughout the 2 years of the project. Again, that is supported by the European Parliament. We have a quite consequent budget, so I think it's a really good opportunity to gather all forces in a multilateral way. So again, my big thanks to the participants for staying on a Friday morning in Canada and afternoon in Europe. It was a very, very interesting discussion. Wim, over to you for the concrete details on the next steps.
Thank you very much, Elise, and thank you all for being, let's say, so long in the meeting, which is also a big success because on the Friday morning, Friday evening, thank you for that. Practically, I will be very straightforward. There are 2 webinars to come in September, probably in September, maybe at the beginning of October, the second one. As mentioned, the next webinar will be about analyzing the financial tools, private and public, which can be helpful for setting up the partnerships, the cooperation, but on a transatlantic level. That will be the key topic to work on. I've heard very clearly from everybody that they're searching for potential for setting up partnerships, for setting up long-lasting relations, for building up platforms. All this costs money. Exchange of information is one thing, but there is also much more in the field of cooperation. So the financial tools are definitely an issue in order to work to build and to construct. Second topic, second webinar will be definitely focused on the preparation of the first mission towards the province of Quebec, and this will take place. I can give today the dates from the 27th of October till the 2nd of November. And there will be three big angles or three, let's say, key aspects that will be presented. The mission will start in the city of Quebec, where there'll be, let's say, a more general introduction on the, let's say, the governmental side and the policy side of the work which is done in the province of Quebec. Then we will travel to, now after this fantastic promotion by Amélie, we cannot miss it. We go to Rimouski, and where we have the big conference on Future Ocean, which will take place, so which is a conference not only for policymakers, but also for port people and also for SMEs and for startups, and definitely also for research institutions. So that will be the platform where physical contact can be made and also exchanges can be organized. And then we end up, let's say, in Montreal, in the city of Montreal, where the key focus is on ports and on AE, which has been mentioned very clearly as well today in many of the speeches. I think there is also good reason to work on that. So the second webinar will be a kind of a preparation for this mission. This mission is open for representatives from the government, is open for representatives from the ports, is open for the representatives of the SMEs or SME clusters, and is open for research institutions and let's say startup centers which are related to the universities. So I think this is a wide package, and you are very much welcome working in the region of the Atlantic Arc. I think you're all very much welcome to join us in this mission. We can give you more practical information. I mean, I'm not going too much in detail now, but you know it's ongoing, it's planned, and so we have to, we will work in function of this target. For next year, then Geraint will be in the focus, and because he will welcome us in Wales, and that will be probably in Q2. Dates have to be decided and discussed, but it will be in Q2 2025. So thank you, Elise.
Thank you, Wim, and let's wish everybody a good weekend then. Thank you, Ruben, for the excellent moderation as always. Bye-bye. Thank you.
And thank you for
Thank
Team
you
Forum
so much.
Oceano. Thank you for Team Forum Oceano for the excellent organization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Follow
Thank
us
you so
on
much,
LinkedIn.
everyone.
Have a
Cheers.
nice weekend.
Thank you all. Look forward to
Have a
working
nice
with you.
weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.